Welcome everyone to God Talk Uncensored, where no topic is off limits. We use the Bible as a source of truth, and everything we share is from our personal experiences and the Bible. All right, let's do this. I have contained myself enough. This episode is going to have some R-rated content. I'm just telling you up front, right? I wanted to say PG-13, but I'm going to use language that's common, maybe not common in our Christian communities, but language that is common in the world. I'm going to expose some things and talk about some sex stuff that's important, I believe. And so if you have your kids in the car or wherever you are, this might be something you listen to alone, unless you have a teenager and you think that maybe they would benefit from this. But I'm going to remind you, I may actually use real derogatory terminology in an effort to just explain what I'm communicating. So if that offends you, you might want to listen to it first. Here we go. So part of this for me started, 2 days ago. And I went to, it was just my daughter and I. We had dropped off one of my kids at a birthday or gathering for some friends. And so I thought, hey, she and I will just go and we will get some lunch together, which we don't get to do often because I have twins. So they're always together. So I said, maybe let's go to Chipotle. And love Chipotle. Everybody does. So, whoa. So I'm going to talk about that experience. But first I want to say a couple things. If you haven't noticed in the last few years, especially in the last 3 years, our culture is changing, and it's changing exponentially, rapidly. So if it's 2 times sped up 1 year, it's going to be 6 times, 4 times, whatever, sped up the next year, right? In regards to the changes that are taking place. And of course, I talk about God, because that's what this show's about. And it's God Talk Uncensored, because we're going to talk about things that, technically I could get censored, so I get it, right? Like I have a show called God Talk Uncensored. I could get censored. But the uncensored version is that I want to be able to talk about stuff that is difficult, that people need to talk about or need to hear about, and not it be like, oh my God, I can't believe he said that. So that was the intention of this show from the very beginning. And I've done a lot of stuff that, wouldn't be considered, as my kids would say, sus. But this one's going to be that one, right? For some of you guys. So here we go. We live in an increasing and an intensely changing sexualized culture. Okay. It is the things that are happening, especially with our youth, our kids, as young as kindergarten, the things that teenagers are doing that, when I was a kid, we dreamed that could happen for us or to us or whatever, right? In the flesh, of course. This kind of stuff is becoming commonplace, right? Orgies with teenagers, junior high kids, multiple partners, sometimes all together at once, sometimes in the same day. It's happening, right? And so our kids are exposed in ways to things that we would be blown away about. We are exposed to things that we should be blown away about. The amount of pornography that you can find online is dumbfounding. And a lot of this, just by way of all the social media apps, just draws you in, right? And so I'm going to mention a few things here, and then I'm going to go back to the Chipotle thing. And I'm fired up, so follow with me. Okay. Satan perverts everything good that God intends to be pure and good. He perverts it. He takes something that God created to be a blessing and sanctified and holy, and he wants to destroy that as best as he possibly can. Pervert it. Take something that's good, turn it into something that's bad. Started all the way back in the Garden of Eden. God, Satan questioned Adam and Eve about God. Did he really say? Like, God was holding out. He was holding back. He wasn't letting you experience the fullness. He wasn't giving you the whole enchilada. He was just letting you scratch the surface. And we believed that. Adam and Eve believed that. And so they went ahead and they partook. So God has this plan for us, right? The humans, with each other and with him, in the way that we operate with each other, spiritually speaking, and with him, especially regarding the area of sex and sexuality. And he has some, I hate the word rules, but he has some guideline principles because he knows what was designed best for us. He knows exactly what works the best in relationship, in unity, in oneness, in connectedness. He knows best. So Satan goes, there's more. There's more. And if you go down this path, it's going to lead you to fulfillments that God has been holding out on. And that's something that he's been telling us for our entire life. Dangling the carrot. There's something tastier. There's something bigger. There's something better out there. And for those of us who have tasted or caught the carrot, right, and taken a bite, we realize it was sour, right? It might have seemed like the pursuit was fun and we got there and we realized like this actually was lifeless and fruitless. So you see what Satan does is he tries to pervert something that God made perfect his way. Satan hates women. Hates men too, but I believe he hates women more, substantially more. The very first prophecy about Jesus was found in the book of Genesis, chapter 3. And it was about, the offspring of Eve was going to crush the head of Satan. And that human being was Jesus Christ, right? Born of the Spirit, through an earthly body, Mary, and crush the head of the serpent. He has always wanted to pervert life. Like we could discuss or debate abortion, but let's be real, like it's life. We're created in the image of God. This is why Christians, for the most part, look at that and say, yeah, that's a creation of God. And Satan would love to destroy anything that resembles the image of God. And he does that to women. He wants to destroy women because they represent something that he can never, ever, ever do or achieve. Reproduce and recreate a God-bearing image. He's a fallen angel, right? So he's demonic in nature in regards to his spirit. So he has no ability to reproduce and recreate. We've been given an immense and awesome existence in relationship to God and to each other. And Satan wants to pervert that. He just does. So he does this primarily through some of the desires that we have that are God-given desires, primarily sex. Okay? God could have chose to allow for an interaction of intercourse that had no physical sensations, just reproduce, right? There would be some kind of whatever, and then you would do the thing, and it wouldn't feel good, and it wouldn't matter, and then a baby would come 9 months later, And it could have been done that way. But God wanted for us to connect and enjoy and have orgasms and be sexually satisfied. And this is something he desired. He desired for us to have with a husband and a wife, with each other, right? And it brings this union, this desire to two people in a way that when it's done God's way, it just produces more and more and more fruit and more goodness. So Satan hates that. He hates the fact that human beings get to have fun and enjoyment and satisfaction and all of those good things. So he perverts it. He perverts it through music. He perverts it through pornography, towards perversion of all sorts. The thing about perversion is that if it could be satisfied, like you would go down a certain pathway and you would do the thing that's super abnormal, sexually speaking, and it wouldn't actually, you would do the thing that you thought was going to bring you this great thing, this pleasure, and then you would be done and you'd be like, well, achieve that. But the thing about lust is it cannot ever be satisfied. It cannot be quenched. So you always have to top that by doing something more perverse and more just, grotesque, if you want to call it that. So the Bible says in Ephesians chapter 2, I'm going to start here. Verse 1 and 2, as for you were dead in your transgressions and sins, in which you used to live when you followed the ways of this world, ways of the world, pay attention, and of the ruler of the kingdom of the air, the spirit who is now at work in those who are disobedient. So we know that spirit and that ruler to be Satan, to be the Lucifer, to be pulling away. See, when Jesus was tempted by Satan, Satan was like, this is all mine. All these kingdoms are mine, and I'll give all of this to you. He is a ruler of the fallen nature of what's taken place in the world. And he's offering us something in that fallenness that's supposedly supposed to bring some gratification and satisfaction. But it never, ever, ever does. It brings a temporary sort of fleshly sort of satisfactory thing, but almost immediately after there needs to be more. There has to be more. There's got to be more. And then the guilt and the shame set in because the person without the spirit, right? Or the person who's encountering these things realizes that this isn't the way they're supposed to be doing the life. And so the fear, the guilt, the shame, the condemnation lead them to want to self-soothe, and then they go back to doing it and even more. Okay, so sexuality has been perverted so badly that even those of us who walk out our faith in our marital relationships have been so tainted by the way the world has told us that it's supposed to look like, feel like, and how you're supposed to behave within that. Some of us have had to walk through like getting healing from the perverse or the thinking of what it's really supposed to be like, because God has a better connected, intimate, sensual, godly plan for what our sexual lives look like. And Satan hates that. So he perverts it so that we get all twisted up. Okay. So in the last few years, things have been ramped up, right? You just can feel it. There is a sense of, if you're a believer especially, and you share your viewpoint about anything that has to do with your stand or stance, not that you're the morality police, but your stance about how you feel about certain things, it's not a popular thing. You can be canceled. You can be called a homophobe. You can be called a bigot. You can be all kinds of stuff just because you go, I have a viewpoint that stands on what I believe the Bible says, and I can love you and I know God loves you. But maybe that's not what God's original plan or intent was. But doing that is so scary that a lot of people just kowtow and bow down and be like, no, it's totally like God's cool with everything, right? So when you think about like sin or sexual sin and you ask somebody, well, can you define that? Like they're like, cheating on your spouse, but like everything else, it's okay. All right. Most of the areas of the New Testament, the Pauline epistles, did I just say epistles? I did. All of them talk about some form of perversion or sexual immorality or something to do with carousing and all of that stuff. Like just refrain from that. That's the way you used to do things, and now you don't do that anymore. Okay. So I go to Chipotle, and they've got probably 15 people working, a bunch of people cooking and in the drive-thru and in the front. And they're literally, I'm not going to say what artist it was or anything. It's not really important, but they're bumping music really loud. I love rap music, by the way, so this isn't anything to say about rap music because I actually like look at my playlist and 90% of it's rap. Christian rap though, okay? So they're playing rap music and it's talking about pulling up my dress, big dicks, slapping around and booty this and getting it hit hard. And I mean, and this music is loud, like in the store. And I'm thinking, are they going to notice that like there's children in here? You know what I mean? There's kids walking through and with their parents like ordering. And I'm looking at the parents going, is anybody noticing like this music? And it wasn't obscure because sometimes they do music that's kind of got sort of nuanced ways of communicating. Whoa, this was blatant and it was loud. And I was thinking, maybe there's a manager who's going to like come out and be like, hey, you guys need to turn that down, or how do you turn it off? And I'm here with my teenage daughter and she's 15 and it's just really weird and uncomfortable. And I'm thinking like, there's this, kind of docile or demure looking young girl, maybe in her early 20s, who's, doing the thing at Chipotle burritos and stuff. And I'm thinking, maybe she'll start to feel uncomfortable. And the next thing you know, she starts bobbing her head and she starts singing the lyrics. And I'm thinking, is this the new normal? And by the way, it kind of is. I've been in a lot of places where it feels like this is an okay sort of thing, like to listen to adopt highly sexualized like content and music. And it's just sort of like, this is the way we do life now. So this is fine. So anyway, I didn't want to embarrass my daughter because she's told me before sometimes like I'll just say stuff and it really just embarrasses her. So I'm like, I'm just going to kind of ignore this for now. And if I have opportunity when she's not watching or something like that, then I'm going to go and say, hey, can I talk to a manager or something like that? So anyway, multiple songs. And I'm thinking, this is crazy. And there's all these kids and stuff like that. And this music was just, you just heard the words. It was more descriptive than that. But it was bad. And I was like, man, this is just crazy. So anyway, so we ate and then left. And I said, hold on, honey, I'll be right back. And left my daughter in the car. And I came back and I said, is there a manager or supervisor on duty? And they brought out some kid, in his 20s or whatever. And I just said, hey, man, I just thought I should say something to you about this. I said, look, you guys are bumping music back there that's just talking about big dicks and pulling up my dress and getting slapped hard and all this like very intense sexual stuff. And I used those exact words while I was talking to the guy. And I said, you got kids here. And I said, even if there wasn't kids here, like I'm a parent, I got a teenage daughter, and it's uncomfortable for me to just like be standing in line with my teenage daughter listening to that. And he just kind of looked at me, and I said, I'm not the morality police. I says, but I will say that like, you might want to choose to know what your audience is. And he just kind of shook his head. And I says, do you understand what I'm saying? He goes, yes, sir. And I don't know if he did or not, but I felt like I had to say something. And, this is part of the deal. And I'm not saying like Christians are supposed to run around and like tell people what they're doing that's wrong or be the morality police. But to some degree, when good men and women do nothing, evil triumphs. And so I feel like for the longest time, and here's the thing, I mean, if you read the Bible, we know, and I talk a lot about the end times and stuff, we know that things are there's going to be the great apostasy, people falling away from the faith, just not believing in the Bible anymore, not believing, in Judeo-Christian values anymore. It's the great falling away. So a lot of people are like, we need to stand up and we need to do this and that. Well, we may need to stand up, but let's be honest, like we're probably not going to change anybody by, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how many people I've converted on Facebook having arguments, but when I've loved somebody and said, hey man, the music was just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not the morality police, but dude, it's really uncomfortable. Maybe the Lord will use those kinds of opportunities to have somebody start to think, hey, why do we feel like that's okay? I don't know. I mean, it's just an idea. And then I think that same day or later, this headline broke. And the headline was about Balenciaga. I don't know if you know what Balenciaga is, but they are a fashion outfit. They are, they sell clothing and custom bags and apparel, and they're a big deal. Like youth and celebrities are all over Balenciaga and they think that they're great. Okay. So their last and latest ad campaign was like a 9-year-old girl holding a teddy bear in bondage with like the choke collar and all of this crazy stuff. And you think, oh, maybe that's just misinterpreted. No, let me tell you why. There was, on the floor of this photo shoot, there were a bunch of papers spread out and these papers were actually court documents showing how far you can go with child pedophilia and pornography before it's illegal. So there's a spread all over the floor, and then you've got a kid laying face down on a couch with wine glasses all around and a whole table full. I got it like right here on my other computer. Adult tennis shoes on the floor, kind of spread out, and this table of toys, adult toys, kind of obscure, but you could put the pieces together. Studded doggy collar, a bowl, like whips, and it's just bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. And it's highlighting sex with children. And people go, oh, no. Yes. It's a perversion. So, and then you hear like, okay, so the whole like, if you drag queen story hour, right? Where like some dude in drag comes and he like reads some drag queen story to kindergartners, sexualizing children. And people go, oh, that's so QAnon. I don't even know what that is, but evidently it's like a conspiracy about things. So let me just say this, like, Satan is hard at work. He wants to pervert our viewpoint on sexuality, on marriage, right? On gender, perversion, right? So the word perversion in the New Testament is used one time. in the NIV anyway. It says, in a similar way, Sodom and Gomorrah and their surrounding towns gave themselves up to sexual immorality and perversion. And if you remember the story, these angels came. They came to Lot and they said, you need to leave this town. All of the men of the town went to Lot and tried to beat his door down and says, send the men out who are here. We want to have sex with them. So whenever there is like this blatant sort of highly sexualized tsunami or wave of crazy, we're on the verge of something happening big. So I told the story, this is the first time I shared the story about the whole with my daughter and all that, but I wanted to just say, like, this is something that I notice all the time. I don't know if you are aware of how, what conversations are being had with teenagers and even with adults. But it's sad. It's sad. So I'm going to conclude here. I guess I just needed to rant, a little bit. I'm brokenhearted that we live in a culture, and I was a part of the problem for the longest time, but we live in a culture that has deviated so far from God that we have sexualized children. We are castrating and physically doing things in order to change something outside because of something that's you're struggling with inside. Your inner life is all in turmoil. So you're like, I know how to fix my internal life. I'll just change my external, right? God loves you. He loves me. He loves every one of us who struggle with that like there's more. And so I'm going to chase the carrot of what the world says is going to do it. Or I've done all of this perverse stuff and like it never satisfied. So it just kept snowballing and ramping itself up. If that's where you find yourself, there's hope in Jesus. There is hope in Jesus. There's hope. There's life. There's freedom, 100% freedom from guilt and shame and everything else associated with the fallen way that we used to operate, right? I love you guys. If you don't know Jesus, it's a simple process. Help. I need you. Come into my life. And if you do know Jesus and you're still stuck in bondage, remember, the jail cell's been open, right? You might just feel comfortable sitting there because you don't know what it's like outside. But the jail cell is open and you need to get out. You've got to get out. There's freedom in Jesus. Peace. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to God Talk Uncensored. We appreciate your support. And until next time, God bless you.